Doyle and Emily Gullikson from OptixEQ. Really exciting. Emily, opening day tomorrow at Del Mar. You pumped or
Opening
what?
day. I think it's a very good card, and we're going to talk the Oceanside, which is a very interesting race.
Yeah, the Oceanside always comes up like an interesting race. You know, the old days, like not even that old, maybe like 5, 6 years ago, they used to draw so many horses into this race that had split it into two. And it's a really big field. You see I've got the plot open, Emily, on standard, and it's just a lot of circles and squares there. And, you know, as I was looking through the races, you know, this one kind of attracted me. And, you know, people always ask, what do you do? You know, how do you know which races to play? And you know what's your kind of selection process, and you know what do you do? I mean, what attracts you to a particular race, and what kind of process do you do to kind of get to that race?
Well, yeah, I mean, if we're using kind of this race as like a starting point for that conversation, and you're just looking at it from right off the bat, you look at the plot, it's like, could you guess who the favorite is in the race?
No,
I can't. I can't at all. So to me, that looks like a race that is probably going to be a good betting race because there's nobody that is a standout. Of course, there's horses that throughout the plot, if you're looking at it, okay, this horse can win from that spot, but there's nobody that you're going to look and go, okay, this is the horse to beat, and can I pick them apart from there?
Yeah, good point. Emily, I just want to point that on the plot. You see there's orange and pink or red everywhere, and that's just because those colors represent the morning line. Anything that's less than or equal to 3 to 1 would be green. So Emily's point is well taken. There's just, when you don't see green, it's just wide open. And exactly, I mean, I look for bigger fields too. I mean, especially if you're a kind of a vertical bet. I know a lot more people like these pick threes and pick fours and pick fives these days, but there's so much opportunity vertically in races with big fields like this, especially in the trifecta. So I kind of look for that too. And, you know, just looking at this plot, I just think when you start seeing some pinks that look like big squares and orange that look like big squares in a race like this with a high speed rating, it kind of attracts me too. So that's what attracted me to start looking at this race, and then we're going to kind of drill down, dig in a little bit more. So the other thing I like to do, Emily, when we kind of look at these races, people new to optics, is this is our standard mode, and this is, you know, just recent races. We try to get recent form kind of incorporated into the plot. But since this is a turf race, I like to do two things, especially in these, races with 3-year-olds, Emily. I like to look at surface too, because you get some horses stretching out. So I'm going to flip over to surface just to see the plot. This is 8 furlongs on the turf. So this will pull in all the turf races in a horse's career. And these horses are lightly raced. And you can see that, it changes a little bit, and still got some really big squares. It looks like the 3, 4, 5, and 9. So, that was kind of the way I want to start. And again, it looks like, hey, opportunities. So let's dig in. Emily, how do you want to approach this? You want to look at horse by horse, or do you have, were there particular things when you looked at our grid, which is I'm pulling up now, that you kind of focused in on and kind of drilled down on?
Yeah, before I even looked at the grid, you did the track profile for Del Mar and Saratoga, and so I kind of started at that point, and I'll just read off what
I'll bring it up.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm just so everyone knows it. So it's up on the website, and if you go here, I'm just pointing to it, Emily. I did a track profile analysis based on statistics, plot statistics. So I'm going to just pull it up as Emily talks.
Okay. Yeah. So this is for turf 8 furlongs. So exactly at this mile. It says upgrade runners with relatively strong pace velocity. So those are your squares, especially in quadrant 2. So I would kind of start, see if anybody's around there, which have the highest win percentage at 17.4, and Q4, which has the highest ROI, it's 9% ROI, especially in races where the pace is projected to be highly contentious and fast. And that's kind of the scenario that we have there. So, I mean, I really started by examining each square in the race, because I feel that those are probably the horses that are most likely to win.
Excellent. Excellent approach. No, that's really good. Okay, that should be helpful to people. That's the way to approach this. Okay, so where did it start? What was the horse that you first evaluated?
So I'm gonna the sort of four horses that I went with. Looking at number 4, Artie Be Good, number 3, Pepe Tonto, number 9, Move Over, and number 5, Desert Stone.
Okay, I'm going to just pull those up in the grid. And what you could do, you could actually select which horses if you use some of the filters that we have here. So Emily said the 3, 4, 5, and 9. And let's do that. Okay. All right. Very good. So I got the grid open, Emily, with those 4 horses.
Okay. So then I mean, we can just kind of isolate, one by one and go horse from there if you want to start at the 3.
Okay.
So starting at the 3, we really only have one turf race to go off of, which is a B-, and the horse was warm, so that's just something to look at. On the track, if he does get warm, don't let that freak you out or anything. He's actually been warm in the past. The grade's a little bit below, right? I mean, Optics figures he has those races, 88, 87, which would obviously factor in 84, which is in range. So for me, this is a horse that I would include maybe more for an underneath, but not necessarily, jumping off the page as a horse that I'm going to make, the pick of the race.
Yeah. I thought he ran pretty well that first time on turf. And, when you look at the jockey change, a lot of people will be on be negative on the Pratt to Quinones, which is right to be. I mean, Pratt's a better rider. There's no doubt about it. But that also means you're going to get more value by looking at this horse. So, I thought it was a legitimate race that he, ran pretty well. And, like when you look at these stakes races, non-graded stakes races, they're really, especially for these 3-year-old only, restricted to 3-year-olds, it's not a big jump up, from optional claim. Actually, it's probably a lateral move. And he kind of was in some of the tougher races in over his head early. So they must have thought a lot about him when he first started. And when you look at some of the other contenders, that's why he's a square. There's a lot of sprinters stretching out. So, I agree with you on this horse. I wouldn't, obviously, he's probably not the horse I'll key on, but definitely going to be using him in the exotics underneath and vertical plays.
So after I kind of go through all the horses, maybe if nobody, kind of jumped out at me, I might, circle back to them and see if there's anything that I missed. But we'll move on to the number 4, which is Artie Be Good. Obviously the trip note kind of jumps off the page at you when you see this green, especially BTL, traffic, trouble, gallop, improve. That intrigued me enough to go back and watch his race prior over at Pleasanton. And I thought that race was really good. I mean, he was against the flow in that race and actually showed good kick. I mean, I thought that was a sneaky good effort. This is a good horse, and I mean, the morning line is just big enough to where I have to use him somewhere in the top positions. It's just too crazy not to. Yeah,
I love him. I thought that race back at San Anita down the hill, it was subtle. It was kind of a subtle trip, and. In fact, the favorite, I guess one of the horses is going to be the favorite, the Pratt horse in this race, beat him in that race. But I just think this horse has much more upside. And if you go back to that Pleasanton race, right, the horse that he beat for third was Axelrod. And Axelrod just, won the Indiana Derby last weekend, which with a nice effort. So, sometimes you look at those Pleasanton races, you think they're kind of low below standard, but Axelrod came out of that race and he beat Axelrod in that race. So, I think he's going to want the longer distance, and he is tremendous value at 20-1, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the 5 next too. It is logical. Logical player. Won his last 2 races. Going to be. He looks good on the plot, but I mean, you just go and you look at the plot just from a value standpoint. Desert Stone's 4-1 on the morning line, and of course, a horse that I can't imagine that many people are going to leave him off ticket. So he's going to be short, in every pool, right? And he's really not that much different than, I don't know which plot you have open, if you have the standard open or the surface open still. I mean, on surface, he's really not much different than the 4.
No.
Right.
And I had him on surface, actually. The 4 kind of has even a better kick on standard.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, just from, you look at a value standpoint, there's really no, there's no knocks, there's no, super red flags and stuff, but you just get into the gambling aspect, and there's other horses that are similar that
Yeah. I think the thing is you're not going to go too wrong with value in this race being a 14 horse field. So, when we say that, we're not telling you to leave because this is still a very valuable contender. You don't want to leave them out of your if you're playing vertically, right? You don't want to leave them out of your wagers. But yeah, well taken. It's just the 4 just seems like tremendous value in comparison. So it'll be interesting to see where this all lands. All right, the next horse, and I think I think you have this as one of your keys too, is the number 9 Move Over.
Yeah, I mean, I did just put this horse on top because he's just more accomplished on the turf, right? And especially at routing. I mean, the thing with the 4s, obviously he has those good races, routing on the dirt and then sprinting on the turf, but he's never put the two together. So this horse just being a little bit more accomplished in both those areas and has run good races. You see 3 B races in a row, so B being all winning efforts. Had trouble the one time that he's at a stake. We imagine this being a comparable stake. $100,000 race, So running a B race in there with some issues. I put this horse on top, and following the circuit, since I'm starting over at Southern California again, I've been doing the trip notes for Los Alamitos and started following the end of Santa Anita. John Sadler's barn is going really well right now, so I think that's just another little push for this horse.
Yeah, and he does. He always has a good Del Mar. You got to admit that. So the 9 Move Over looks like one of the key. So I think those are the horses that we kind of. Is there anyone else, Emily, that kind of? I mean, I think that was the right approach. You kind of look again. People ask about it all the time. How do we approach this? You kind of looked at some of the analytics around the plot. Kind of focused your energy around maybe 4 or 5 horses, looking for particular keywords and things and so forth. And I think, be able to create some value in here. And what we always ask you to do is verify, dig down, go to the next level. But this is a great way to kind of get a quick kind of assessment of a race and see if there's something there to actually hang on. And this looks like a great betting race. There's just no doubt about that. So, I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, the thing I think I want to just tell people before you kind of wager on anything, I think there's just a couple of things you want to kind of look at every horse, because people always ask us, Emily, how do you know? How do you make you do the race of the day? I do some of the spot plays and stuff. How do you come up with that? And I think the one thing you want to be focused on is, and what the plot gives you is, do I really understand how the race might be run? It may not run exactly that way, but it gives you at least an assessment. And I think if you handicap that way and try to figure out, does this horse get the lead and all that, and we do a lot of the grunt work, I think that's at least you're on the way of trying to understand how actually to bet the race. You really want to try to assess how the race might be run. So I think, the other thing is when you're betting horses, look for horses that have ability, they're fast enough. You want to look at their OptixFigs and fit in the fig range. You want to understand, are they fit for today's level? Are they suited for the conditions, surface and distance? And you could do that with the grid. And obviously with the plot, do the pace dynamics favor or hinder your horse? I mean, those are the things you always want to evaluate before you make a wager. So that's my 2 cents. Anything? Yeah. So Emily, you're ready. You're going to actually be out in Del Mar this weekend. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I'm going to head out Saturday morning, so I'll be at the races on Saturday, and then Sunday morning doing the handicapping seminar on the apron. I'm not going to be able to stay for the races that day. I have to get back, but I will be there in the morning.
Okay, if you want to hear Emily's selections, that's on Sunday. She's going to be out there with Frank Scattoni, and they're going to be going over the entire card for Del Mar. And I know you'll get some good optics input there with both those folks. So that's it. I think we want to at least kind of just get you kind of initiated to Del Mar. And the other thing I just want to let you know, back to the point of this race, early in the card, what we've noticed over the last 3 or 4 years with the plot, squares in quadrants 2 and 4 do even better earlier in the meet. I don't know if it's just because the turf course hasn't got chewed up or what have you, but look for those horses that come off the pace early. They could really launch deep rallies, which is not what they're used to at Santa Anita, coming out of Santa Anita. So that's something to watch for early in the meet, usually the first week, and then it kind of stabilizes. Just something that we noticed. Okay. That's it. You can get a Del Mar package, a complete meat package in Saratoga too. Just go to our website at OptixEQ.com. We have meat long packages. Not only do you get Del Mar, Saratoga, you get all the tracks. So it's a great value. And thanks for supporting us. And Emily, any closing comments?
Just good luck. Have fun.